understand, and I joked about this on Twitter. The guy knows how to get places. He's got 9 kids. He appreciates the importance of mass transit.
Right.
But are you going to tell me Sean Duffy has my body of work? Okay,
it's true. This was your position. I'm a little shocked, frankly.
And this is where it gets crazy. Okay, we've met the Duffy kids. These are good, decent, well-rounded people. Okay, getting 9 of them somewhere is nothing.
Right.
I was transporting time travelers, hobbits, ninjas. Okay, lunatics, ex-con, escapees. And I got them everywhere.
And people not in your family as well. I mean, it's actually...
There it is. Brenberg's got the jokes.
Found that trapdoor.
Bang.
It was.
Did
Boom.
you hear? Bang, you did. And I don't know that there was any consideration. I don't know that I was any short list. Is this the first miss of Trump's cabinet appointments? I say it is.
Well, I think you might have been on the list somewhere, but they do a background check, you know. And they sent a guy to Times Square. And they just, walk around a little bit, see what you can learn. And they come back and they said, let's go with Matt Gaetz.
Jeff Caldwell, who was a great comic when I first started. He is a very, he's probably the most liberal man alive now. Okay, so we haven't been in touch. I just haven't seen him since I started here because we were kind of on different circles. And it wasn't because of politics. It was because we were in 2 different trajectories. When I started in comedy, he was doing Letterman all the time, was like a national headliner. So he was off somewhere else. And I'd occasionally run into him in the city, but he had this great joke about that. He's like, I used to be an engineer, but people begin to talk after your 5th bridge falls down. That whole thing. And I sometimes wonder if maybe I was on the short list and Trump ran my hack license. Because I got to be honest, I did not throw a perfect game. Did I crash any cars? No. But I did have some problems with the taxi and licensing TLC.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's all bureaucracy, though. That's the thing, isn't
Thank
it?
you.
I mean, right? It's the machine. It's the swamp of taxi driving.
If you cut the red tape, I'd probably be allowed to bring a 14-foot albino python into a taxi.
We paid his fare. What do you want?
Which was frowned upon in 2014 in a way that I'd like to think it won't be in Sean Duffy's America.
Just because it was an albino, though. I mean, that's not fair.
That's discriminatory.
That's really wrong.
Is what it was.
Really
there were
wrong.
probably other pythons I could have had in there. But it was a white albino python. Some form of reverse racism is what it was. But the point is, we're happy for Duffy, but we're a little miffed by the fact that I wasn't on the short list.
I am. I really, it's good to have friends who get these kind of positions.
Yep.
And I was really pulling for you, and I thought, you want a disruptor in transportation, you go with Jimmy Failla.
Yeah, you get in there. Thank you. Thank you.
But I do wish Sean the best. I mean, that guy's going to be amazing. And next summer when I'm on a flight and it gets delayed, I can't wait to be like, Sean Duffy! Duffy!
We're going right in. First train comes off the tracks. We know where he lives, okay? Knocking right on that door. No one thought about it. That's what's so crazy about the moment. You grew up across the street from Pete Hegseth.
True.
On the same street growing up.
It's nuts.
So the kid you traded baseball cards with and played ball with is now in charge of the entire United States military?
I was just thinking, we literally, when we were kids, we'd find sticks, we'd play Army.
Yeah.
Running around the neighborhood playing Army. That guy is now a nominee for Secretary of Defense. How do you process that? How do you process that?
What the hell is the world coming to?
It's crazy.
I mean, it's so nuts. It's like, that's like, if you playing wiffle ball with your buddy and he becomes a Hall of Fame pitcher. That's kind of what this is like.
It's bananas. But at the same time, which makes it all so surreal, is we've had these conversations off the air. We actually think these are good picks, which makes it even scarier.
I know.
It would be if they sucked, it would make it easier to deal with. Because there's this part of this reality, and I don't know if this is a survival skill or whatever, but we make fun of ourselves a lot. But we come from very humble origins, and we like to discredit our place in this organization.
Right.
But there's this sad and scary reality that we must be functioning at a halfway decent level if our colleagues are now running the country and people feel good about it.
Yeah.
And I don't like to know that because, my whole business model is based on having Joe Jackson living in my head, yelling at Michael all day before he goes on stage,
It's totally false.
And that's what we like to do. So the idea that our buddies are now running the military and running transportation.
It's kind of scary that they would let guys like us hang around people who can actually do these jobs. You would think you'd want to surround them with the best of the best, but they've been surrounded for a few years by us.
Maybe that's how.
And I just hope for America's sake that not too much of us rubbed off on them, right? They somehow could just in one ear and out the other with all this.
Oddly enough, Trump must feel the same way, in that this is what I think happened, to take this to a serious place for a second, because I've been saying this about Tom Homan. Oftentimes the guy who works on cars his whole life doesn't get to drive a Ferrari.
Yeah.
He's the guy who'd appreciate it the most, but he doesn't have the financial wherewithal to get it.
Right.
Homan getting the border, somebody like Pete, who you played Army with, okay, somebody like Sean Duffy, okay, these are the regular guys getting to do the thing, getting to drive the government equivalent of the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because it is a power to the people kind of a moment in that, for whatever, okay, Trump sees this electoral mandate as, he recognizes who powered it. It was not powered by elitists. It was not powered by the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It was powered by an appetite for disruption and change.
It reminds me of Ford versus Ferrari, when the guy at the beginning, what does he work on? He works on minis or so. I can't remember. And the guy pulls in, and he has no idea how to drive this thing. And it's like, you gotta know how to drive it. You gotta listen for you gotta know what it runs like when it's running at its peak. And there's a certain place where you shift and move. And these are the kind of guys I think who actually, they pay attention to that. Like Pete knows what a warfighting machine should function like.
Absolutely does. And that matters in a unique way that's probably been absent in Washington for a while now, which is why things are in the condition that they are. Yeah, a lot of people don't know the Ford versus Ferrari. Harold Ford was great in that movie. It's a wonder he ever went to the 5.
Yeah.
Knowing how
big career change for a guy like that.
Knowing how instrumental he would be in that battle. We're talking to Brian Brenberg, and half of what I'm saying is true. Harold Ford had
better than usual. I mean, that's way better than usual.
That's a high percentage on this show.
Getting the Hall of Fame with
do they throw some wild pitches. But what's funny is, and to bring it back to our wheelhouse, is the fact that pro athletes are doing the Trump dance. In the Trump movie, we've now made it to that portion in Major League where they're showing you the montage of the team winning and the Wild Thing song is on. And they're now doing American Express commercials as the Cleveland Indians. Trump is now American Express mainstream in terms of successful and support.
It's so true.
Because the NFL is the biggest sports league we have. And if they're on board, they drive the cultural conversation in this country.
But it's like this breakthrough. I appreciate this. I'm glad we're at this moment where I think there's just such a desire to kind of have fun.
Yes.
Well, it feels sort of like we're acknowledging cancel culture might be dead.
Oh, it's gone.
Because we can just do this. And it only ever happens after something good happens.
Yes.
Like you score, or you get a big hit, or you run a great race, or you sink a putt or something. That's when it happens.
Thank you.
It's associated with good things in life.
Imagine that. But you talk But you talk about the cultural rebrand that constitutes. I mean, the Raiders did it. And understand, the Raiders doing the dance, this is not a team.
They may want to sue on that one.
Well, yeah. But I was also going to say it almost means more to me because they don't get a lot of chances to celebrate. So the fact that it's probably the one celebration they're going to do all year and they still chose to do the Trump dance is significant.
They're throwing the Trump dance and the icky shuffle and all these things right in together. It's like, we're going to do all our dances at once.
Count.
The one shot. I'm doing every dance I know. Macarena.
That's funny. But it's true. And the bookend to where this started is the entirety of the NFL kneeling in some type of a protest that was associated with Trump, even though he had nothing to do with it. That's where we were in the summer of 2020. Drew Brees apologized 5 times. 5 times. For saying, hey, I want to be an agent for change in this country. I support what the guys are doing. That being said, I feel like the anthem belongs to the troops. I'm not going to kneel. He apologized 5 times because the backlash was that fierce. His wife apologized twice. And now those same NFL players are doing the Trump dance.
If you wrote that story, you would be laughed out of the room for such a stupid, unbelievable, bookend ending. And that could never happen. And in how many years? 5 years?
Yeah, not even. And this is where we are. And what's so crazy about it, and I was on the road this weekend for the first time since the election, is everybody I know has that same vibe. Like that there's this civic pride late 80s thing happening. Like it's almost Reagan-esque 1985-y.
Yeah.
And it is. If Trump is a Super Bowl shuffle now, okay, which he is for all intents and purposes, we're somewhere we haven't been in a really long time.
That's so interesting.
But it's for the good of the country, because if nothing else, I think what happened is, this is where I consider Elon the quiet MVP with the acquisition of Twitter. We're having fact-based conversations now, and there's a lot more perspective in our politics. We had 2 elections that were decided by feelings. It was the, battle for the soul of our nation one that Biden allegedly won, according to some people. Some people. Okay, Trump might not agree. Okay, but understand, that was the whole battle for the soul of our nation thing. Even in 2016, I mean, what was Hillary largely running on was this guy's, the Antichrist who's colluding with Russia and everything in between. And we weren't really speaking to any fact. And Twitter, because you can now platform ideas and have community notes.
True.
Is now forcing an honest conversation on the electorate. And that Kevin O'Leary talked about that. He was saying how Elon can shame people over government spending. Right. In the past, any spending cut was decried as some form of bigotry. But if you're actually showing them, oh no, we spent $10 million to have gerbils fight on steroids, people might say to themselves, I don't know, honey, do we need to watch the extra round of the gerbil steroid fight? Knowing we just shelled out all this money to watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, do we need the gerbil fight just the same? And I think a lot of people would argue no. And
they were Ecuadorian gerbils. Just so you know, okay, this was a foreign policy play, actually, not a waste of money.
Goat yoga. I mean, there's a lot of things, as you know, okay, that don't hold up to scrutiny.
Yep,
if they're showcased.
If they're showcased, and that's the big difference between every other time we tried this. Like you talked about Reagan. Reagan tried this in the early '80s. He had a Grace Commission. Business people like Elon, like Vivek, put together $500 billion worth of spending cuts, gave it to Reagan. Reagan put it before Congress, and Congress said, we're not going to do anything with this. Yep. Because nobody's going to vote for us if we do, and they'll never know if we don't, right? And it's the last part of that sentence that changed. Yep. Because Elon and Vivek are like, and Elon in particular is going to say, well, they're going to know about it.
They're going to absolutely
Because I got like a couple 100 million followers, and I'm going to just keep putting it out there.
Day in, day out.